Guess who? This is the weirdest thing doing these every week. And I'm only doing it just because I've gotten some good response from people saying, well, it's nice keeping in touch during the pandemic, sort of knowing what's going on. So there are things going on behind the scenes all the time, as there are with you. I just want to say before I get started here a little RIP to Little Richard and Florian Schneider, two sort of heroes of mine in two completely different genres. Oddly enough, both of them were incredible keyboardists, but with obviously completely different sorts of results. But they were both incredible artists, and we will miss them. So let me get right to it. I don't want to be too long today with this. I just want to say about the record store day situation. You probably already know now because I've put it in how many videos now? Three? This might be the third. That we have three record store day drops happening. Not a record store day. Don't come June 20th like you didn't come April 18th because neither one of those happened. So mark your calendars. August 29th, September 26th, October 24th. Three Saturdays. Um, how do I feel about this? It's going to be interesting. It's a lot of work getting volunteers to help me do this three times in a row, giving up three Saturdays, 3 months consecutively. I always wanted it more spaced out. Be careful what you wish for, but that's what I'm getting. I think it'll be okay, but I understand where some people are a little bit like, well, I have to go like get in basically a line three times. Well, I'll tell you, we're doing everything we can to try and avoid the line situation. If that means assigning times to people and having curbside pickup, that might be the case. So please continue watching or listening to these updates because it could mean you getting the record you want or missing out. And I would really not want anyone to miss out. So pay attention. Black Friday, I'm hearing that that may actually still happen as well. There are plans to do that. That would be Friday, November 27th. So that would be four record store day events in a row. Let me just take a big breath there. uh, so there's a lot to consider. If it works, great. I'll keep you posted. The list comes out June 1st. That's the first list for what will be coming out August 29th. They're supposedly splitting it in three parts, equal parts. I have no idea what's going to be on these lists. You'll probably find out when I do. But once you do, and I'm not saying to blitz me right away with this stuff, give me like a week or so, but we should have a week or two to get our thoughts together and get the order in. But I'd be interested to see what kind of things that you have on your list if you haven't mentioned it to me already and you plan on shopping here. I know we're in sort of eastern PA, southern eastern PA lockdown situation for now, but that will probably sort of loosen up. I mean, maybe it's a good thing that we have three or four of these days to choose from just in case things do go into lockdown at some point. There are options. The product is just sitting, gathering in a warehouse, gathering dust. It needs to get out to you guys. So, anyway, send me some of your lists as to what you might be looking for because I think a lot of what I'm going to be ordering is going to be kind of based on what I'm seeing and hearing from people. And I don't want to miss out on something that you might be looking for. It's hard to tell what the turnout is going to be. So we don't even know if the college is coming back to this area in the fall. I mean, I'm assuming they are, but you just don't know. Could be in a different capacity. Anyway, there are probably going to be things removed from the list, things added, so check that. Been a little bit irritated with some of the stories that I've been hearing, especially over in Europe, where there are artists pulling their items off of the lists and just selling it themselves through their website. It's kind of crappy. I mean, you've committed to doing Record Store Day as kind of a way to help the record stores celebrate, their situation. And, I understand why you want to get rid of your product, but I don't know. It kind of is bad PR in a way, I think. But the people who are saying scrap Record Store Day altogether, I think are a little short sighted. I understand, like, maybe you don't want to wait in a line 3 times, but again, I'm saying I'm trying to find ways to make it so you at least have an idea and you're not just hanging out all night every time there's one of these things. But it's really not fair to the record stores who are also struggling to say that it just shouldn't happen. We're going to do our best to try and come up with plans to avert the human contact as much as possible. So if it's at least for us, I mean, we have a parking lot. If I didn't have one, that would be a little more difficult. But we want everyone to stay happy and healthy, so that's what we're trying to do. And I have a person who's immune compromised at home too, so I need to, be safe as well for you as for myself and my people who help. When we do actually go back to opening as a regular sort of thing, I've been considering having like an hour early, sort of what grocery stores have been doing, where people who are older or immune compromised want to come in and browse before other people. And yes, it will be eventually limited numbers of people. That means at first there may only be 2 or 3 people in here besides me at any given time. If there's someone trying to come in, they may just have to wait until that other person leaves. There may be a timed situation where you're only allowed to browse for 15, 20 minutes and then you have to make your decision and leave. Um, it sounds really harsh, but I think this is the new reality that a lot of us are being confronted with. Fortunately, my store is sort of small enough that I can kind of manage that, but you get into a bigger situation. It's a tough, tough road ahead in some ways, but I want to make everybody have a good experience as much as possible, even if you're in masks and gloved up. If you don't have gloves, I'm probably going to have some sanitizer, or you can bring your own if you can find any. Anyway, so getting on to the release dates a little bit, I've said that so many things are getting bumped from the spring into the summer, and it's sort of like you threw all the poker chips up and they just fell where they fell. So, like yesterday was May 8th, and Jason Isbell's new album came out, and we did get it. It came out a week early for indie stores, which was sort of a nice thing that he did. Nice show of support. Next week, there's not much on the 15th. That's Perfume Genius, Hamilton Lighthouser, and Moby. And there's some vinyl reissues from the Cramps. The B-52s Cosmic Thing is coming out again, so if you want to get your Love Shack on. And also Probot, which was the Dave Grohl side project, is supposedly coming out then. May 22nd, there's a live King Gizzard that was announced. Hey, no time like a pandemic to release another King Gizzard record. The 1975, who have a CD. It looks like the vinyl maybe a couple weeks later. Steve Earle, Indigo Girls, Bill Withers had a little CD box that they'd been planning before he died. So that's supposedly coming, and the Everything But the Girl Temperamental reissue, which was the last album they made together, even though they are a married couple and or are at least a couple and have still been together for 20 years since. All right, May 29th. This is kind of the first big release day, right at the end of the shutdown, I guess, in this area. I think they're saying June 4th maybe now for Chester County. Anyway, Lady Gaga has been pushed to that day. The album Chromatica, that was supposed to come out at the beginning of April, oddly enough, her album is coming out, and now the Killers removed their album from the schedule that was supposed to come out that day. So again, different artists making different choices. The 29th is also, and this is 2020, folks. Mac Miller, the last album he made, will be coming out on vinyl. That's supposedly settled on. Prince, there's a bunch of reissues of especially live stuff. The Rush Permanent Waves box set, Jimmy Buffett, Mountain Goats. I don't think there's much else that day, but that's probably enough. June 5th, we're into June. There's a Fish vinyl reissue of Junta on like a splatter record. Magnetic Fields have some new release, mini box something. Um, Dion, his blues, I think it's blues duets actually. Sandra Lerche and Badly Drawn Boy, a couple names there from the past. June 12th, June 12th, Liam Gallagher's MTV Unplugged has been pushed around a lot. It might just be vinyl that day. I'm not really sure. Again, they keep moving things. Built to Spill's Daniel Johnston tribute, Nora Jones, Paul Weller, Sonic Boom, if you're familiar with Spaceman 3. The 1975 on vinyl, I guess, for now. Jenny Beth of Savages, and the other items that day I saw were Peter Gabriel. He put out a soundtrack for, or it was a compilation for Record Store Day last year that came out on picture disc. This will be the regular vinyl and CD of the songs for movies. Warren Zevon's Life Will Kill Ya, which a lot of people have been waiting for on vinyl, and the Blue Nile reissue High, their final album. Then we get to June 19th, which is kind of the next big day. That's a new Bob Dylan that just dropped down from the sky, Rough and Rowdy Ways. So that's interesting. First album of new material, newly written material from him in 7-8 years, something like that. New Phoebe Bridgers, Ron Sexsmith, Lamb of God, a Yo-Yo Ma, another one of the Appalachian Projects, and a picture disc of David Bowie's Space Oddity, which, how many times can they release that album? Great album, but anyway, June 26th is kind of a big day because the Stones released their new single on a 10-inch colored vinyl, and there's also several albums they're reissuing from their catalog, from spanning, I think it's only rock and roll up until Bigger Bang. It includes most of the 90s albums that are very hard to get. Voodoo Lounge and Bridges to Babylon in particular. Haim's album comes out that day, Khruangbin, and then there's a couple live CDs, I think, from Depeche Mode and Elbow, it looks like. Then you get into July. July is crazy because July is like the month that catches all of the April and May stuff this year. So I've already mentioned Fiona Apple, July 17th. Same day for The Pretenders. Other July albums: Willie Nelson, Sparks, Rolling Blackouts, Weezer, Glass Animals, Proto Martyr, Jayhawks, Psychedelic Furs first album in, I don't know, 25 years, something, 20 years maybe. It's a long time. And then in August we get the physical version of the new X album, which is their first album in almost 40 years. I think it's streaming now, but so records that we still don't have any information on dates: Fish, Laura Marling, Charlie XCX, which I think is streaming supposedly in a week or two, but we don't know about physical. Bon Jovi got bumped. That was supposed to be next week. Dixie Chicks was supposed to be last week. That got bumped. And the Killers, which I mentioned before, have no idea. Probably summer. I don't know. September, not much info except Jarvis Cocker, Throwing Muses, and Alanis Morissette, I think, unless they move that again. And the other names that have sort of been thrown around: Sam Smith, Run the Jewels. Run the Jewels have a new single that I think that's streaming, so that will be a really popular release. And Adele, that's another one that's sort of been mentioned, but we don't know when. So anyway, I just want to say, thanks to everybody for looking us up. Our hours have changed, and that's been kind of difficult to deal with, but we appreciate you doing the curbside thing and looking us up on Discogs to see what we have. It's very appreciated, and I'd kind of like to know what a lot of you have been listening to as pandemic music. What has been the soundtrack for all this time that you've been listening to? So leave it in the comments. Be interested to find out. All right. Thanks so much. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you again next week, unless anything crazy happens. Okay. Bye.